Hey YouTube, if you watched my maiden of this GWS C47, you saw on the very first takeoff how I tip stalled it and it went in on the nose. So I've been working with this Foam-Tac for a little while on a couple of different planes. This is the Foam-Tac Foam Finish, and I thought I'd just do a quick little video on how to repair and how I do it. And I'm sure there are many ways to do this, but I found a way that works. It seems to work pretty well. I think I'm going to get a pretty good result, and I'll take some pictures and maybe some short video clips as I move along through the repair. And I actually learned this trick from my father-in-law, who is a general contractor, and in one of my houses in the past I was doing some drywall work, and I put the drywall up and I mudded it and taped it and mudded it and let it dry and started sanding it. And he came along, he said, no, that's all wrong, let me show you a better way to do that. So he put the tape up and the mud up, and then he let the mud kind of settle just a little bit, just dry just a little bit, and then he got a sponge and he got it damp, not soaking wet, not dripping wet, but he just took a big sponge and just kind of wet it down and squeezed it out. And then he took the sponge and he just went down the wall once or twice, and that was it. And it did an amazing job flattening out the mud on the drywall, and so much so that I've used that technique for a long time now. And while I'm not like a master drywall guy, that technique actually works pretty well. So I decided to apply that in my Foam-Tac Foam Finish repairs as well. So first things first, and any body guy will tell you this, you got to get the surface prepared. And I probably could have spent some more time sanding this down and feathering in the paint, but I got it pretty flat, and it is styrofoam, so I didn't want to just keep taking material off. But anyway, I sanded it down, and I got rid of the paint where I wanted to start building it back up. And once I did that, all I did was I just took a little popsicle stick right here, and I just dipped that in the Foam-Tac, and I just kind of smear it on. And then instead of using anything else, I just use my finger, and I kind of lay the foam in the way I want it. And once I kind of have the general, and keep in mind, we're not trying to fill everything in one shot. This is a layered approach. So, I got the first layer in and kind of smoothed it out. And then I took my paper towel and I just dipped it in water. And I'm not trying to make it soaking wet. I just want it a little damp. And the real trick to this is when you use it, always use a clean edge and don't have any wrinkles in it. But if you just keep it kind of damp and you keep a nice straight edge like that, then you can just drag it down the foam. And what it does is it leaves a real nice smooth surface down below. So you just do that once or twice and get it to lay down nice and smooth, and then stop. Just once you get it smoothed out, just stop touching it and let the Foam-Tac set up. And you don't have to do it. The instructions say to let the first layer cure for an hour or two, and I guess that would be okay. But what I found is that if I let it sit for about 10 minutes, it starts to get tacky enough where I can go ahead and add another thin layer. And the idea again is just to build it up and then use your paper towel just to kind of, instead of sanding it, just kind of smooth it down. And you can see, like right there, I've got a little more buildup than I'm going to have to do in a subsequent layer. But once I get to that point, just keep adding layers and smoothing it down. It'll start to fill in the wrinkles and the dents, and it'll get you back to a surface that you can paint again and get it back in shape. So there, I'll see if I can get the zoom in. So there you can see right there, I still have some work to do. Right there, I've still got some work to do right there in that spot. The front's actually coming along pretty good. When I sanded it out, this little groove was a little bit deeper than that. It's starting to come out okay. So I'm just going to let this layer that I have on there tack up a little bit. And what I mean by tack is when I put my finger on I'll find an edge or something. When I put my finger on it, I don't want it to stick. I just want it to feel a little bit tacky. And once I've done that, then I'll get my stick out or my finger, and I'll just put another layer on, and I'll just kind of smooth it down with a paper towel once or twice, and that's it. Stop. And the cool part about that is I may still have to sand a little bit, but compared to repairs where if you let this dry with the ridges in it or with whatever else is in there, compared to that, the sanding work will be much, much less and a lot easier to do. So I'll let this layer tack up a little bit, and then I'll put another. I'll come back and do a video where I'll put another layer on with my finger, and we'll smooth it out with a paper towel, and then I'll skip to the end where I finish it up right before I paint. All right, guys. So I think this is probably going to be the last coat, and I'll just. I do apologize for going off frame, but I'm working with another hand here and trying to watch the Foam-Tac and the plane and the camera. Anyway, so I'm just gonna, as you can see, I got a couple more little spots in there, little grooves that this last coat should flesh out and get me back to smooth. So I'm just gonna take my stick and just put that on in the areas where I see the notches or you know, not flat surfaces, and just kind of work it into those grooves. Okay, and I'll set my stick aside, and I've got a fresh paper towel here. I just need to dip it in the water, get it a little damp. Remember, the edge is the real trick into doing this. Just make sure you don't have too much water. Make sure you got a nice clean edge to work with, and then just give it a quick little wipe like that. And I'll get a new edge. And if you do see a groove like right there, that's because the edge wasn't perfectly flat. I must have had a wrinkle. So I'll just fold it and give it another wipe. There we go. See? All right, now I gotta get a new paper towel because that one's getting used up. Okay, back with a new paper towel and nice clean edge that's just a little damp, not too much water on it, and there we go. So I'm just going to do a little tidy up on the edges. And if you run out, you know, if you find a dry edge, just dip it in the water again. I'm just going to tidy up these edges a little bit. And I think that will be the end of the road for the foam filler. Yeah, there we go. I think that's pretty close to being done. So now I'll let this dry, and then once it's dry, I'll get my Hobbyco tape out, and we'll tape up the edge. I'm gonna have to mix a little paint to get this silver as close as I can. I don't think I'll get it perfect, but you know, military airplanes, they never are perfect anyway. But I'll just mix up a little bit of gray, get that as close to the silver here as I can. I'll paint a little patch there. Once that's done, I'll tape off the nose again with some Hobbyco tape, and I'll repaint the top black. And then for the radar dish or whatever it is they run up in the nose of this airplane, I'll mix up some gray paint to match the tail, because that's what the livery has, and I'll just freehand it. If anybody has a comment on how to get a perfectly round paint on the nose, I was thinking maybe using a cone or something like that, but if anyone has any ideas on how to get it perfectly round, I'd love to see it in the comments. But I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry, and I'll get it taped off, and I'll come back when we paint it. And then after it's done being painted, I'll put the final pictures with the before and after up, so you can see how this repair worked out. Okay, I've already done the first touch up on the side where I had the white patch. I mixed up some white and black paint and got it as close as I could. I mean, I tried several different shades and got it as close as I could. That's about as close as I can get it. I don't think it'll ever be quite that same silver, but that's, you know, again, 1 foot plane, right? So now I've got the nose taped off, and I'm just gonna paint on some black. And I just got this cheap black acrylic paint at Michael's. It was like $3 a tube, and I even had to get a couple of paint brushes. But so now that the Foam-Tac is dry, I've got my black sun glare section of the plane just taped off, and I'm just gonna cover it with some paint real quick. Sorry, I'm just making sure the tape is pressed fully down so I don't get any bleed over from the paint. And I don't start the paint on the tape because that's when you have the most paint on the brush, and that's when you're most likely to get a mistake, you know, where the paint will seep down past your brush line. So, and I'm not going all the way to the very top edge all the way across because that part was actually undamaged, so I didn't really need to repaint that. And since I'm using the same color black that I did originally, I think it'll blend in just fine. And the tip of the nose doesn't have to be flawless because it's going to get the round, the gray paint that simulates the radar dish, so it doesn't have to come to an exact point on the seam. You just want it close, because if it's not close, it'll look lopsided. Okay, so that's the black paint, and we'll just do what we can to get the brush marks out of there, and then we'll let that dry. Alright guys, that's the repair. I'm done. Again, freehanded the nose. That's the best I can do it. I know it's not flawless, but it looks fine from a foot away. This two-footer plane looks really good. You can even still see my little repair on the silver there, but yeah, from a distance you'll never know, and it looks a lot better than where it started. So I'm happy with that repair. I hope the video has been helpful to you. But that Foam-Tac filler, it just works really good with water. I mean, that surface is pretty squared away, and based on where I started with the wrinkles and everything, I think that's pretty passable. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.